the 23rd of March 2012, a 17-year-old patient stabbed and killed a young doctor in training over what he felt was mistreatment of his condition by the hospital. He was sentenced to life in prison. That same year, hospitals in China on average reported 27 cases of attacks on doctors. Now, 3 years later, today, the situation is much unchanged. Who's at fault and what are the solutions? My first guest on China Insight today is the former Deputy Secretary General of the China Hospitals Association, Dr. Chong. Dr. Chong, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
So, in your opinion, is China's healthcare sector facing a crisis?
I would say we are facing a big challenge because China healthcare system is now going on to a crossroad. You know, straightforward, or we have to change a little bit. So, not only the physicians facing frustration, but also the hospital executives facing very high pressure.
Let's take a look at Martin Pollard's report. He goes inside hospitals to find out what is the root of this distrust, this frustration, and this violence we see in the hospitals. Let's take a look.
This is the calm before the storm. Dr. Wang Qian, one of China's leading rheumatologists, is on his way to work with his wife, ICU Dr. Peng Jinmin. They both work at Peking Union Medical College Hospital, known locally as Xiehe.
It's often said it's very difficult to see doctors at the best hospitals in the biggest cities. Well, this one here, 94-year-old Peking Union Medical College Hospital, or Xiehe, is widely regarded as the very best hospital in the whole country.
我们一般上门诊之前上厕所喝水喝够了，因为可能一个白天就没有太多机会喝水上厕所了，所以早上像打仗上场之前把该准备的都准备好。
The hospital employs many of China's top medical specialists. Patients come from all over the country to see them. This means it's very hard to get an appointment here, particularly in the departments where the hospital is country leading, like Dr. Wang's.
We have 700,000 people one day come to Beijing for medical service.
On an average clinic day like today, seeing his returning patients, Dr. Wang sees between 50 and 70 patients a day. He's calculated that this only allows him an average of around 6 minutes per patient.
新病人有的时候特别复杂的会看到半个小时。
The overwhelming patient numbers mean there's no way he can provide them with the quality of care he would hope to offer. But like doctors all across China, Wang realises he must make the best of it, even though the heavy workload may be among the least of his worries. On March the 23rd, 2012, at one of Harbin's top hospitals, 28-year-old trainee doctor Wang Hao was murdered. The killer was a 17-year-old rheumatology patient, Li Mengnan. Li Mengnan said he did this because he was refused treatment. Doctors had told him he needed to first recover from another illness before he could continue taking the very strong drugs for his rheumatism.
不认识他，不管我，不是接待我的。那为什么你杀了他？当时，他在帮那个门口的退出，离门口挺近的。第一个进去先看着就是他，我看他也挺高的，可能也有点抵触心理吧，所以第一个杀进来。我也感觉大夫好像就是有意刁难我啊。
Many doctors are reluctant to discuss such issues for fear of being disciplined. But after the Wang Hao case, orthopaedic surgeon Dr. Yu Ke, who also works at Xiehe, decided he must do something. For he was convinced that the future of his profession in China was at stake.
像王浩这样的事情，可能很多女的医生可能就哭了，很无助，除了愤怒以外也很无助，觉得这个刀可能哪天就砍到自己头上了，是不是啊？甚至我们那个急诊科的医生，不是被一个耳鼻喉科，他就是在工作中经常有一种恐惧感，他就不敢 就是说背对着，就是老觉得后面可能有一个袭击来了这种心理的阴影。
Dr. Yu feels passionately that it's vital to raise public awareness of the issue. To this end, he writes blog articles and posts on social media site Weibo. He has founded a series of online campaigns, including one which argues for zero tolerance for violence against hospital staff. But he's aware that not all patients are sympathetic of his cause. For example, I put it to him that many people we spoke to said that the solution to this conflict is for doctors to treat their patients properly, i.e. cure their illness or injury.
医生他不可能每一个病都能看好，他能够保证的就是说好好对待你，用他的这种职业很专业的这种技能和他的职业精神，有时去治愈，常常去帮助，总是去安慰。我觉得这是特鲁多的名言，这很好的诠释了医生的职业。
Few hospitals have to face the prospect of death as often as specialist cancer hospitals like this one, the Beijing Cancer Hospital. Dr. Jiang Xiaodong is director of gastroenterology here. She says few people think cancer can be cured, so tempers don't fray as much here as in other departments, such as pediatrics, ER and obstetrics. But it does still happen.
那种心情极度的不好，都不是一般的，而且可以用抑郁来形容。如果你遇到一个你自己认为做得很好，又不被家属理解，甚至有一些不礼貌的一些行为的时候，哎呀，那医生是非常的抑郁的，心情非常不好，一定要影响他的工作。
Dr. Jiang says in the past she has witnessed violence against doctors and has even, when she was working at the Beijing Emergency Medical Center, been a victim herself.
就以我自己为例，我当时就是觉得不想做了，就是医生不想干了，就到这种程度。
就那个时候。
对。但是过一段时间呢，想一想呢，也觉得，哎，还是理解吧，没有办法。真的就到这种程度。不好意思啊。
可以理解。
所以我挺理解他们被打的那种心情。
The impact of the violence may be felt for years to come. 78% of Chinese doctors don't want their children to study medicine, according to a survey of 6,000 doctors conducted by the Chinese Medical Doctors Association.
我们将可能面临着要消失的专业呢，就是急诊啊、ICU 啊，或者是产科呀、儿科呀这样的专业科室，由于医生的短缺。那么他说你老这么说，但是呢，医学院校的生源学生啊，确实是很多。但是这个生源呢，它有一个水平的问题，因为我们年年的这就是招收这个研究生嘛，在研究生的面试当中，就是这几年至少5到10年之间，我们明显的感觉到我们的研究生的学生的质量在下降。
Like UKE, Dr. Jiang has been driven by the crisis to make her voice heard on social media site Weibo. She also recognises that hospitals have work to do to improve their service. Another who has joined the campaign to end violence against hospital staff is lawyer and Chinese Medical Doctor Association committee member Li Huijuan. She has represented doctors and their families in many of the most high-profile recent cases, including Wang Hao's.
没有任何预警，没有任何的摩擦和接触，甚至被杀的人和杀他的人素未谋面。那么他揭示了一个核心问题，就是他杀的是谁？他杀的不是某一个人，他杀的是穿白大衣的人，也就是发生了阶层或者说队伍间的冲突，是个集体冲突。
Another crucial reason for the relatively high incidence of violence against hospital staff in China, according to Li and all the doctors we've spoken to, is related to a societal fear of death.
药到病除，所谓起死回生，这个救死扶伤， 讲的都是医生的神一般的无私的奉献，并且他的能力也如天使一般的神一般的这可以期待。这是中国传统文化对于这个医生在无形中千百年来流传到的一个过高的期望值。可是，在现代医学面前，它是科学，理性的看待，它的确有局限性。
8 p.m. and Dr. Wang's shift has finished. He tells me he's often concerned about his safety. Just 2 weeks ago, he was very nearly assaulted by a patient. But he is comforted by the fact that his wife is safe because at Xiehe's ICU, she gets to work behind locked doors.
I was shocked to see a doctor brought to tears and just be so depressed and disillusioned with what should be such a revered profession, such a great profession.
Yeah, me too. I also feel sorry about that. 1 decade later, maybe we do not have good doctors, because the most brilliant students, high school students, they will not go to the medical school.
How can we restore faith in China's healthcare system?
So who is going to take care of us when we are old? So this is a social issue.
So people who not maybe acting in a violent way, but they will go to the hospital and they will demand to be seen to or to be compensated, and they won't leave until this happens. What is this, and how is this allowed to happen?
Because of this kind of troublesome disturbances, so some of the hospitals said, okay, fine, I pay you and you go.
But of course, if you pay once, you set a precedent that you can go there
Definitely.
and then get paid.
Yeah.
So do you think there needs to be stronger punishment to people who attack doctors to send a message that we cannot have this?
If this is they think is a criminal thing, they will do a different way.
So it needs to be classified as a criminal act.
That's right.
But it's such a difficult issue because you can't help but feel some sympathy for the people.
That's right.
It's almost like I would feel frustrated.
They even sold out their house to treat their relatives, and eventually their people died. But if there is an action, that is a criminal thing. You better sit down. You can have a lawsuit to the doctors. You can go to the court. But you better not attack the doctor physically in their workplace.
All right. What is the solution to solving this problem of violence in hospitals, if you can just try and sum it up?
First, have to improve doctors' communication skill. Talk more to patients for their understanding. Secondly, we manage the expectation, manage down patients' expectations. Say, so the disease result will be like this, and you do not have a much higher expectations. And also, the whole society, the healthcare system should improve. That maybe patient will be on a most directed procedures. Not everybody go to the big hospital, the top one.
Dr. Chong, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, more on China's healthcare sector. Welcome back to China Insight. Today, we're putting China's healthcare sector under the microscope. Around 99% of Chinese people are covered by some form of medical insurance. But what does this coverage entail, and is it enough? Hopefully, my next guest, Professor Zhang from Peking University, is going to help us answer this question. Thank you for coming here today.
Great pleasure to be here.
So you studied as a medical doctor, but then you decided not to practice. Why was that?
During my last round of internship, I quickly realized having a clinical knowledge is not enough to helping patients. And I was fortunate enough to be admitted by Harvard in 1998 to spend 5 years in medical school, business school, and the Kennedy School of Government to try to think about the system and the managerial issues on how to improve healthcare.
So you think in China it's not a problem necessarily of expertise, it's how this expertise is managed to best provide healthcare?
Right. It's not about integrating expertise. It's more about management.
All right. So I want to hear more about that. But first up, Martin Pollard meets a young man called Dong Lei as he tries to get help for his case of rheumatism. Let's see how healthcare serves him here.
On hearing this, 26-year-old He Donglei knows that yet more of his mum's hard-earned wages are gone on his medicine. He Donglei is originally from a village near Jiangjiakou in Hebei, though he now lives in Datong in Shanxi province. They agreed to talk to us in their hostel room, for which they are paying 130 yuan a night. They would have liked to have avoided the cost, but they can only get a train back home in 2 days' time.
干了点按摩，这点钱就继续就是每年给他来看病。除了住房吃，这就剩下就是每年就是给他到北京跑几趟看病，这就完了。一年就是这样的轮回，反正是紧巴巴的，这不是来一次我们就是靠便面度日。这来时候我从老家带的。 住了旅店就不买饭了，这就吃点方便面。
He was referred to Dr. Wang by orthopedic specialist Dr. Chen Wenwei. Now, however, Dr. Wang wants to refer him back.
我们这边大概就给维持治疗就完了，他那关节变形很影响功能，你看看，啊，好，多谢多谢。
He knows he will probably need to have an operation. However, he is afraid of hearing that for certain from Dr. Chen, because he also knows there's no way his family could afford it. Although co-payments vary massively from county to county, rural residents can now get reimbursed on many medical costs. But to qualify, you must be seeking treatment in the locality of your hukou or household registration. So what happens if, like He Donglei, you have to travel further afield because your local hospital can't treat your illness?
挂号费、检查费，再一个就是住宾馆、好吃的费用，这就是都是自己掏了，这就没出报销。你是住了院以后，可以住院费、输液，那得输液。 才给你能报销，如果你不输液，报销不了。
Dr. Chen tells He Donglei he is fairly certain of the choices facing him, but he wants an up-to-date X-ray just to make sure. Back at Dr. Wang's clinic, we catch up with some of his patients in the waiting area.
要是住院的话，好像能报点吧。 要是不住院，好像都报不了。
他这2年我也花了10几万。
10几万？
嗯。
那你能包吗？这医保能包吗？
我们农村都是摘那个合作医疗，那都报销率低。
你大概能包多少？
要包的极少。
花了大概得10来万了吧。
那能报多少？
我一共报了前后做一个手术，就光这个病报了1万1。
那就是一大部分是
报不了。
Of all the unfortunate cases Wang Qian has encountered, that of Yu Ying from a village in Jiangsu province is the one that has left the deepest impression on him. Yi suffers from an extremely rare condition called pulmonary hypertension. Viagra can fight the condition. Without it, she would die. But it's not covered by insurance.
但她是 woman， 但是她要吃这个药，但是 Viagra actually in China is quite expensive, cost about 3,000 yuan per month. So the family actually can't afford it. Very hard.
Dr. Wang sympathized with her plight, knowing that she had 2 daughters, so he put her on one of his trials. And for the past 6 years, she's been taking a variant of the Viagra drug developed in China. However, earlier this year, Yi's health took a sudden turn for the worse. To keep going, she needs Viagra in addition to what she gets through the clinical trials. But the family is now penniless.
准备放弃了，可是王大夫他没有放弃，他又给了我1个月的现金，让我又吃上了外科。完了，现在我不知道往下的路怎么走，因为我真的吃不起，因为那个药太贵了。今天王大夫还是 见了王大夫，王大夫他还让我一定坚持，因为这8年来真的走过来真的不容易，亲戚朋友能借的都借了，完了我们医院的走廊也睡过，躺椅也睡过，真的没法说。
He Donglei appreciates it might be a long time before insurance coverage is means tested, so those in poverty like him can get full coverage. But he says for now, at least, let's make things easier for patients and let's not discriminate based on where people live.
在哪儿看病就在哪儿报销，和在户籍没有关系，只和在户籍取消这个。比如说我来北京看病，我直接在北京看完就报销，或者在医院直接。
Dr. Chen concludes his examination by giving He the news if he wants greater mobility, he can consider having an operation on his hips.
礼拜23号，
没有钱，
费用太高啊。当时那个查出心脏病的时候，和所有的亲戚都借，也没能借够这3万块钱，甚至有些计划，有些债务现在还没有还。
Oh, China's healthcare system has failed someone like Donglei here?
I have a great sympathy for the family. However, when I look at the system, I see dramatic progress over the past 15 years.
90% of Chinese hospitals are state-run, and this definitely affects how the hospitals are viewed and how things work.
I think this is a starting point that the public system dominate the healthcare sector, period. Both in terms of hospital bed, in terms of technology. The government is doing something fantastic nowadays by encouraging, I want to emphasize, not allowing, but encouraging social investment to get into hospital and the healthcare sector.
And do you think this will stimulate the innovation that we need to reform the sector?
I think public sector is public sector, just like the rest of the world. We need entrepreneurs to create the miracles like in other sectors in China.
And do you think this has happened elsewhere in other parts of the world and that we can listen?
We're happy to observe, but if you look at China nowadays, as a typical word I use is leapfrogging. It's not incremental progress. It's not do a 5-year plan. It's always leapfrogging. So if you look at the hospital nowadays in China, they have great technology, they have great doctors, but it's unevenly distributed. And the problem is systematic.
How do you think innovation, if you could be specific, people in the poorer parts of China, people like Donglei, how could innovation help them?
I think in his case, first the access issues. Of course, for diagnosis or for invasive procedure, he needs to come to the city. However, for daily disease management or for regular checkup, I don't think he needs to travel all the way to Beijing. This is where telemedicine, or more precisely, cell phone can help. That's for access. Second, for cost issues. Chinese companies are starting to make world-class medical device. And it won't be long before Chinese companies start to make world-class drugs, primarily mostly generic drugs. This can dramatically lower the economic burden on this. Third issue on quality. How can we improve quality? Can we say that not all healthcare offered by doctor are appropriate?
Okay.
There must be something inappropriate over the whole process. How can we reduce the waste? Once again, if we have the protocol installed in the IT system all over Chinese hospitals or in cell phone, so that rural doctors, they probably, of course, they cannot do fancy procedures, but they can follow protocols to offer standard daily care.
So you think there needs to be more oversight that the right care is, to make sure the right care is given?
We need to build a technology that help patient become more reliable. Nobody, so that's where I can see in his case, innovation, not technology, but integration of technology or better use of existing technology can really help.
And help reach the poorer parts of China, reach people like
Donglei. And with immediate and tangible impact.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to look more at China's healthcare sector. And we're going to ask the question, are Chinese doctors paid enough? That's when we come back.
觉得应不应该涨医生的工资？
这个的话，我觉得医生的工资也还都可以。
几千块钱是有点低，是有点低。
提高的应该是他的从服务上面、医改这方面应该提高。工资这方面当然也应该提高，就是说是他不是光不是说光凭你说他我也是个医生，但是我不特做这我天天不干活，能奖他工资有啥意义？
这种学历的话，一个月在医院刚毕业才收入3、4千块钱，我认为确实是太低了。如果说他的工资水平有所上升、有所调整的话，那么他这个其他的一些红包呀，这个所谓的药品的东西，他就是如果说能达到他心里一个价位，他不会说做这种事情。
Oh, so she just mentioned they get paid on average 3,000 to 4,000. Is that accurate?
I think on average, doctors are paid miserably.
In China?
In China. But that doesn't mean star doctors are paid miserably. Star doctors in China are having a good life. I fully agree doctors' salary or payment needs to be changed. Instead of injecting money into the public hospital or into their salary book, they can earn money by working with insurance. One is, this is my salary. I get this, regardless if I can do a decent job. Second is, show me the value, either in efficiency or in effectiveness or whatever innovation you have. Show me the value. Give me a reason that I need to give you more.
So what you're suggesting is a merit-based system where you get paid more for doing more.
The question is not raise the average, because raising average will backlash in public. The challenge is, who are the doctors who most need to be rewarded?
Now, what are the challenges to implementing a merit-based system of paying doctors in the hospitals?
Premier Li has said repeatedly to encourage commercial health insurance to run healthcare scheme. Once commercial health insurance become workable in China, they are the guy who fully understand value for money. You show me the value, I'm happy to work with you.
Thank you, Professor Zhang, for joining us and providing your insight today.
A great pleasure.
All right, thank you for tuning in. That's all the time we have for today's show. If you have any comments, suggestions, or questions, you can email us. You can also add us on Weibo, WeChat, or Facebook. Until next time, bye-bye.